Hello, everyone. Welcome back to yet another episode of Worth the Hype. Right? I hope you guys like the new intro that we have. We are continuously improving our production quality little by little, but ultimately this is a passion project for us. We both have a full-time job available, but we have seen tractions gaining from this. We're seeing more comments and more questions coming in as well. So we take that as a positive feedback that you guys are really into this new format slash series, right? So we'll keep it going weekly as usual. And for today, it's going to be on the Seiko 5X Pepsi collaboration, right? They're finally a true Pepsi watch, right? So they have announced this, I believe, in early August, and recently launched. They have two versions. One on the retro Pepsi and one on the modern Pepsi. The retro Pepsi, it's I wouldn't say dive watch, but a dive looking watch. Does that make sense? 100 millimeter water resistance, 38 millimeter in size, and both versions are limited of 7,000 and serialized as well. You have a numbered version of your watch behind, like X out of 7,000, right? And the retro Pepsi comes in a bracelet format, and the modern Pepsi comes in a GMT and also in a rubber strap format, right? The thing to note as well, the GMT variant is a little bit bigger. I would say it's somewhat on the similar size of the previous SKX, right? The 42 millimeter SKX, whereas the retro Pepsi is a smaller version of a 38 millimeter, and they both comes in the really, really cool packaging as well. As you can see at the bottom right of the screen, if you're watching on YouTube, it comes in a Pepsi can as well, right? In a retro Pepsi can and a modern Pepsi can, right? So that is a really, really cool collaboration. And to be honest, I'm surprised it took them so long, or took somebody so long, to actually come up with a Pepsi watch, whereas the Pepsi nickname has been around since forever, right? So yeah, anything else for you to add on, Woody, before we get into it?
I think it's just very clever that Seiko finally did this, because I think if you ask a general watch enthusiast when you say Pepsi, the first thing that comes to mind is actually a Rolex GMT, right? And there's always been a cam, sort of like a separation of the cam, which says that, who really owns that name. And by Seiko now officially and formally doing this, in truth, I could, it's like the joke we make about the fake moon swatch being the moon watch. This is like, if you're carrying a GMT Master Pepsi, you're having a fake Pepsi. It's a running joke you can now create, and you heard it here first already. Otherwise, let's go on ahead.
Fair enough. Right. So yeah, just to know, I'm wearing the fake Pepsi here. All right. So jumping straight into it, moving on to the scoring criteria. The very first one, is it worth it at retail, right? As you can see in the previous slides, it's at $300, $400, depending on which variant you're looking for. And you do have a limited edition watch as well, and it's serialized, and it comes in that really, really cool packaging and the whole entire combinations of things, and you do get a good watch, right? I mean, Seiko is a very reputable brand. You have a very reputable movement as well. Nothing I would say nothing really special in there, but nothing really to bash about as well, right? It's a solid movement, solid watch. It's a watch that will last you forever. It's a watch that is built with a regular, I would say regular, or say traditional Seiko build quality, right? So I've absolutely no issue with that. With that price you're paying for, looking at how you would pay for a secondhand like SKX and so on, right? You really can't beat the price of the retail price for these watches, right? Either variant you go, no issues with that. I would say that I would prefer if they did a DLC coating black bracelet for the modern Pepsi as well, so that they are both available on the bracelet format, instead of one being in a bracelet and a rubber strap. But however, I have really no qualms with it. The black rubber strap fits in the theme more with the entire look of it. So I guess that works, right? But so overall, it's a pure yes for me over there, and it gets a full mark over if you could get it at retail because it's sold out fast. Yeah. Over to you, Woody.
Yeah, I think when we finally remembered about this, even you were probably thinking like, "Oh no, I've missed the bandwagon," right? And I think I've also caught me thinking at this sort of price point for an official collaboration, you don't find it very common. It's like proper mainstream brands that any person on street would recognize a Seiko, would recognize a Pepsi, right? And an official collaboration. What actually I find very surprising, and I think this is very typical of uh, more so of Japanese than the Swiss side, they chose the most affordable bracket to release this limited edition run. Uh, if this was left with the likes of Omega, you leave it with the likes of anyone else, right? They would have sent it to the higher echelon, still put a limited edition of a 2000 or whatnot. Although, to be fair to Omega, they've not done that for a while already, but that was the model, right? You have probably a smaller number, priced 3 to 4 times more, and it's never at the entry level. So, by virtue that they did this at a Seiko 5 level, arguably, even though Seiko 5 prices have gone up a fair bit, but it's still their entry level point for now mechanical Seiko watches. Now, what I forgot to check is whether there was even a significant premium over a standard Seiko 5. From the feel of it, it doesn't feel much, even if there was, and you do get something quite special. I actually have nothing negative to say about this. You really can't get, I mean, the closest I can think of to some sort of collaboration like this in recent days was the Formula One KIF, and even that was an expensive watch, right? I think it was operating at about $2,000 or something for a was it a quartz? I think I can't remember now. And this is a robust movement, nothing to shout about. You have nothing to write home about. But Seiko movements are, especially under the warranty, you just send it in, they'll fix it up. And a lot of watchmakers know how to deal with this as well because it's a mass-produced product that of which the movement is fairly stable. So you will be able to get parts for it. Definitely worth it at retail if it floats your boat. My qualms are actually not in the worth it at retail. This one here, if you lucked in and you saw it and you wanted it and you got it, good on you. It's one of those things that doesn't come around very often in the watch world these days. To find something special, collaboration top model under 1,000, and robust mechanical movement. Even I think the GMT available on the black one. And I agree with James that it could have been a nicer with a DLC bracelet, which is also where my thought process came. It's like they could have asked for more and priced it even more, right? But it didn't. So power to us, benefit to us, full one for me. Back to you, James.
Right. So I have just looking at the website right now. So let's just say if I take a regular Seiko 5 SKX variant, the 42 millimeter dive looking version of it, that's
With the GMT?
Without the GMT, that is like $420. So there is really no premium, if any. If any, there's very limited premium over there, right? So let's just say if I find the other version of the regular Pepsi with the blue dial, that is about, wait, where is it again? That is about $325. So if anything, it's less than $100 premium over there, right? So it's really, really good, and props to Seiko for doing this, right? On top of it, you get that extra limited edition that's serialized, and that whole entire can box that you get, which may or may not be important for you, but as for somebody who likes limited edition stuff, I think that's really, really worth it. Yeah. Cool. All right. Second one, is it worth it on the secondary market, right? So this is fairly new. I believe it's less than a week since its launch, at least at the time of filming. The price is exorbitant, right? It's more than double for both of the variant, and it's crazy. And if you ask me, I would say it is absolutely not worth it, right? I I like to think that the ones are listing these particular prices right now are the ones are trying to scalp, right? The ones that are camping during the release of this watch online, buying out as many of pieces as they could and trying to flip them and thinking that because it has the name Pepsi, it should fetch a higher amount of price, right? It's similar with how the Moon's watch started. It's similar where people say, "Oh, this is a watch that has a Omega branding in it and it has a Moon watch branding in it. I should be able to fetch a higher premium on this, right?" I think this is the same thing that's happening for this particular watch. In my view, if I were to speculate, I think the price will go down eventually. Maybe not so soon, maybe about 1 year, 2 years time and so on. Or at least I like to hope so, because I totally missed the drop for this, totally slipped my head for some reason, and I've totally failed to even attempt to buy it, right? So I would really like to own one. I'm not willing to pay this amount of premium. So eventually, if it drops down to a price that is acceptable for me, I would definitely get one for me. But right now it's a pure zero over here, right? Over to you, Woody.
Well, I'm fairly consistent when it comes to paying premium for anything. So it's an easy zero here. I'll just cut to the chase. But I will say this. You may not be able to get a limited edition version, but judging by how Seiko plays their cards, I won't be surprised if 2-3 years down the road they come up with a regular-ish model without the special collab and whatnot, right? And they'll charge you for the standard price only, not even the premium price. So if it's just the look from an arm's length that you like, you might be able to get it in a few years' time if Seiko follows their track record. I also agree with James, and keep in mind, there are 14,000 units of this out there, right? People in the watch community, we're all guilty of it. We get bored of our watches after a few years. So I wouldn't be surprised if a few years down the road, you'll find someone willing to part with it, maybe slightly or close to retail, and that's probably the right time to buy. But for now, stay far, far away from it. Back to you, James.
Right. So before we move on, I think one thing to also note as well, in the Seiko community, modding, it's very common. Modding is highly, in a way, acceptable as well, right? People view it as it's a cool thing, right? It's not like let's just say take Rolex for example. If you mod a Rolex, people will be like, "Oh, why are you ruining the watch?" and so on. But however, in a Seiko world, it's very different, right? People would mod their watch to make it their own, to make it unique, to do whatever they want with it. So there's another options that you could also consider if you really want one of this. Mod the dial, right? I don't think there is a 38 millimeter version right now on the website. At least I couldn't see it. However, if you like to mod the regular 42 millimeter, sorry, there is a 38 millimeter version of it. Yeah, you can actually get that and mod it. The dial, change the hands however you want, change the bezel if you want to as well to make it a full GMT. You're more than welcome to do it. All right, so that's something, an alternative that I would go as well instead of paying the premium for this. But of course, you will not be able to get that cool Pepsi can box. But I don't think that's worth the amount of price you're paying for, lah. Right.
It's okay. You just buy a can of Pepsi, right? Empty it out.
Fair enough. Right. Okay. So moving on to the next one, aesthetics, right? So before I get into it as well, I think there's going to be a lot of bias involved for me. So as you can see, I have a SKX here, which is also the blue and red bezel, and also a GMT Master 2 right over here. So I am a big fan of this colorway, right? Maybe more so for the history of where it came from with Pan Am and so on. But overall, I do have a strong association with this. Not association, a connection with it, right? And I absolutely love the colorway. And for me, between these two versions, I absolutely love the theming of it, right? On how the entire watch fits the theming of the modern can and the retro can. And to me, it makes more sense to call this a Pepsi versus calling a GMT Master 2 a Pepsi, right? The colors, the theming, the entire look of it, this is the Pepsi, right? The GMT Master 2 should be called a Pan Am instead of a Pepsi, right? Because that's actually where it came from. And this really fits the look of entire thing. The whole picture just works for me. I just find it really, really cool, from the dial to the Pepsi text on the dial as well. The dial color and also the Pepsi text on the dial as well, and how the bezel incorporates everything. And when you look at it side by side with the can, yes, you can immediately say that is Pepsi, and without a doubt, you cannot argue anymore. And with the whole entire picture coming together, I would say that's like a full yes for me over there. So I'm going to give it a full one over here. Yeah. Over to you, Woody.
So as you were talking, I was like thinking what would my view of this fit. Now, I mean it when I said this is actually a brilliant piece of marketing that someone at Seiko finally figured out to do this, because you officially now call this, and it's written on the dial now, right? It's like you can't even dispute it anymore. This is the Pepsi, right? And I think that's brilliant. But I think to the credit of how well the Rolex community has used and ridden on the marketing as well, I think when you say Pepsi, people will still think of the GMT Master 2. Now, whether I would score it full or not, my qualm, I actually like the execution. So from an idea to an execution perspective, my hats off to them for pulling this off. No fault there. And this is more a personal thing that I look at it. I've just never been a fan of the current Seiko 5 case itself from an aesthetic standpoint, right? So the issue is not with the dial or the bezel. Those will work really well. I actually prefer something a bit more conventional. I really am not a fan of 4:30 p.m. crowns altogether. And I'll come to it in the later criteria as well. I'm not actually a fan of these case design. They tend to be very chunky, and they visually look very chunky as well. So from that point, I'll give it a 0.5, because from an execution perspective, it's as good as it's going to get in my view for a Seiko 5 collaboration with a Pepsi thing. I would actually be willing, and maybe I'll eat my own words, but if they went up to their next tier of the 6R movements and they use a more conventional case design and still called it a Pepsi, and they did a collaboration there, I'd be more inclined to get that than this. But then again, it's a personal preference thing. So I can't fault it, but it's just I don't quite like the case. Back to you.
Fair enough. Right. So let's talk more about a case, right? So I do have a similar thought on this as well before owning the SKX, right? So I always thought the 430 crown is really odd, and that's why. And it just looks really unbalanced. And I think it just juts out from the side for no apparent reasons, right? That's my first initial thought, right? Which is when I was looking for like my first dive watch, I was considering between this and the Orient Mako, right? And I end up choosing the Orient because that's more of a conventional case. That's more normal look, quote unquote, normal looking or more traditional looking. However, for some reason, I think this is like for some like season watch collectors problem and stuff like that. You're just thinking like, or maybe that imperfection is kind of cool, right? That quirkiness and stuff like that, which is sort of like I end up finding and sort of loving the SKX and think that, okay, it's not balanced, but it kind of works, right? It's kind of like, hey, it makes you wonder like why is it there, but sure. I guess I could deal with it. So I'm not sure if that's something that Seiko sort of leaning hard on as well. It says that I could, when they went on from the SKX to move it into the Seiko 5, they could bring the particular crown back to the usual 3 o'clock position. But is that actually them sticking with the sort of the Seiko identity by maintaining it? What do you think?
I think you're right. This 430 crown design is almost synonymous with the entry level or the historical entry level watches in Seiko sports range, right? And so you've pretty much hit it on the head. It's them acknowledging that this is something they want to be proud of, and so they don't want to change it, which is why for me, even marking them down felt like it's more a personal thing. I actually wouldn't fault them any other way. It's them honoring the Seiko 5 heritage, the fact that they're one of the few brands that in their whole catalog, there are quite a number of 430 crowns, especially in the sports range, right? And unabashedly so, because there's actually also a logic behind it. It's just that I am a conventionalist when it comes to visual appeal. So I would, on another day, if I were anyone else, if I was recommending to someone else, let me just put it this way. If you liked that, if you were asking me whether I like it or not, I said, as long as you have no issue with that visually, right? Full marks to it, because it's not really something that's consistent as a taste wise across all enthusiasts.
Fair enough. All right. So moving on next to the horological feature, right? So with the name being placed there as a Seiko 5, it's an entry level watch, right? Nothing wrong with the movement. Ultimately, Seiko makes fantastic movement, right? Even back then and stuff, even with old Seiko 5 watches and so on, you can still find them running after many, many years. And I believe this is going to be the same as well. As that yes, people do give them shit from like not maintaining a 20 bar water resistance and so on. It could be better, but ultimately I think given what it is, it's still decent, right? However, end of the day, it's still a basic movement, nothing to shout about. So yeah, same thing if you see the trend as well for all these kinds of watches, I'm gonna give it a 0. But it's meant to be a 0, right? Because there's just nothing really special about it. But nothing wrong with that as well, considering this is a $300-$400 watch, right, at retail. So yep, that's my thought on this.
Great. So I think for me, right, actually now as I'm thinking about it, I almost feel like I should have given them a better score. Because you do get, for the modern black one, you do get a sort of a GMT function for $550 from a reputed brand. That's worth something. So perhaps in hindsight, I should have been kinder. But I also scored them a 0 at the moment because you're not buying it for that. I think the thinking is, right, if you are buying this, again, you're buying this for the look and the peace of mind. But it's nothing that you cannot get from a Seiko sports watch in the current market from the current catalog. There's nothing outstanding there, but you are getting something that you can rely on, not as accurate as any cost certified stuff, of course. It just works, right? So as long as you buy into that, if you go in full knowledge, it's not really a markdown, but it's just a way our scoring mechanism works. So nothing that stands out to me here. But otherwise, if I was being generous on a day, I'll give it a 0.5. So just factor that in. But perhaps I'm being stingy today. Back to you, James.
Fair enough. Yeah, but ultimately, again, like we mentioned, right, it's a pure subjective scoring, right? So just take that with what you will. Right, the particular last criteria, which is wearability, right? So wearability for let's break it down to two, right? Because they are both different sizes. One is a 38 millimeter, and one is the GMT with a 42 millimeter, right? With the 38 millimeter, the 44 millimeter lug to lug, absolutely no issue. And one thing I do like as well, on the end link of it, it's carved inside. I'm not sure what do you call that. Yeah, I'm not sure if that visual helps or not, but it's carved in rather than carved out. So if you look at the regular catalog, the 42 millimeter with bracelet, you have your end link, the fixed end link jutting out, then only the maybe Woody will explain it better later on this, but the end link would go down, right? Whereas for the 38 millimeter, the middle end link juts inside and stuff, so it has more of a drip down. So that's better in terms of availability. However, the 42 millimeter one, you're going to find it a little bit thick. But with the lock to lock of 46 millimeter, everything still wears really, really well. And I mean, I've been wearing this as well. This is a 42 millimeter, the SKX, and it fits, right? I think it has the right amount of breaks and everything. And it doesn't, I have to give credit where credit is as well. It doesn't wear uh that's how the specs would describe, right? So in terms of how it's like 13 millimeter thick and stuff, it doesn't feel like that, right? If it wears a lot smaller than what the specs say so, right? So with that, all in all, I would have to give it a full mark over here. I don't think anybody would have issues, even small wrists as well, have issues wearing most of the Seiko range over there. Right. Over to you, Woody.
Wow, today I'm feeling very, very stingy then. So anyway, here's one thing that I will say about the Seiko sports watch models. They are the one brand that even I remember some micro brands took inspiration from them as well, because they are the one brand that can do 42.5, 43 mm watches and lug to lug of 45, 46. So it's almost like you will never feel the overhang. It's not the overhang on your wrist, even if you're a small wrist, that you will feel. They do wear large. And so as long as you have nothing against visually large on your wrist, wearability is not really you don't feel it as much, right? And I can only think of two brands that do this very well. One is Seiko. And if you go onto their catalog and look at things like the Seiko Samurai as well, and the Seiko Turtles, right? They are 42, 43 mm watches. Go and try it on. You'll be surprised. They wear way better than any Swiss 42 to 43 millimeter watch. The only other brand I know that pulls this off very well off the top of my head is a Doxa, right? And it's also because the case shape is also a very similar kind of design. And it's something that Seiko is able to do very well. But I have my own, again, today I decided to score everything a bit more subjectively, right? I don't like it as much. I used to own a 43 millimeter, similar-ish to something like a Seiko 5, right? That wears also under 46 millimeters lug to lug. Same thickness. It also ran a Seiko movement, my memory serves me right. It just never felt quite right. So I can't score it full marks from as a tiny wrist tribe proponent, right? I can't score it full marks, but I give it a 0.5 leaning to a 1. Now, I will explain a little bit more as what James was talking about earlier. So the cue to look for, if you're not sure, if you're operating on a borderline of whether to procure a watch or not, and you look at the numbers and it's like, maybe it's a bit big, one clue you should look for is what you call a male end link versus a female end link. So what you look for is this. In the center link, if it protrudes further out than the lux itself, it's going to wear bigger. Because if you just imagine, there's something that sticks out a bit more before it falls, right? If it's a female end link, it was further inside, the central piece is inside, then you tends to wear close to, if not at the lug to lug itself. So classic example is a 1861 Speedmaster versus a 3861 Speedmaster on the current bracelets, right? You will notice that almost immediately. The 3861 Speedmaster actually has a female end link. The 1861s have a male end link. And so even though they say both are 47 to 48 millimeters, you're going to feel a big difference because when you finally stretch that first end link, it goes to 50 on the 1861. In a very similar way, what I really like, and I think we didn't give enough credit to Seiko for this, when they released this Pepsi, right, they chose two different sizes to cater it for. One that would wear great on small wrists. So again, if I were to score the silver one, the classic one, I'll give it a full mark. If I'm scoring both, I had to drag it down and we are 0.75. So I decided to be stingy today. So it's a 0.5 for me. But honestly, this is one of the brands that even if you have a small wrist and you don't mind a bit of bulk on your wrist, it'll actually wear okay. It's more a preference thing and whether you are used to it or not. That's my view on it. So back to you, James.
All right, let's wrap up the score into a total of 3 from myself and 2 from Woody. So smack right in the middle of 5 out of 10, right? So for me, I think it's very simple. If the colorway is not an issue, if that very minor premium that you're going to pay to get a limited edition watch with a cool packaging, but obviously, if you could get it at retail, that's the big problem. I think it's an easy recommendation for me, right? I have no qualms on this. At the price that they're asking for, it's really, really worth it for such a cool collab, right? Any last words from you, Woody?
Yeah, so I've said I was being very stingy today. On another good day, it would have gone easily to 6 or 6.5 already, right? So this is just one of those things. So maybe I might just put that as a caveat towards the end. So yes, James, you wanted to go back to this. So let's have a look at it.
Yep. So yeah, you could see the particular on the silver variant that you can see the first link, the first middle link of it starts it starts it
In line
protrudes
with the
inside
lug.
of the end link.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
Versus the 42 millimeter ones, you have the opposite effect of it. So it has more of an overhang via the bracelet, right? So that's what I'm trying to explain about. So the 38 millimeter one, I imagine that's going to wear perfect, absolutely perfect.
Agreed.
Whereas the 42 one, it's a little bit more, yeah.
Correct. So I think that's where I was going with it as well, right? If we were only ranking the one on the left, immediately it's a full one. You're ranking the one on the right as well, then I'm like, that's a bit harder. And also the fact, and again, credit to the Rolex fanboys, I find that a Pepsi now without a GMT doesn't work quite as well. So anyway, that's just marketing talk that's coming in. But
Fair
I would
enough,
say
fair
that if I had to choose between the two, I'll pick from wearability standpoint, definitely the vintage one, not the modern Pepsi on the right. But then you lose out on the GMT function. But otherwise, so if there was a way to score this, I would say you would have been given a 6.5 to the left, and then the 5 would have been on the right.
Cool. All right. So I think that pretty much wraps up this episode, and we hope you like it. Like I mentioned, we are very much committed to running this particular series weekly for the foreseeable future. And so we have lots of time to cover, lots of episodes to cover all the amount of watches that you have requested and you have asked for, or watches that are going to release in the coming future, right? So we hope you like it. As mentioned as well, any feedback, any criticism, so feel free to drop in the comment box or DM us directly. We're more than happy to take it. Until then, we'll see you in the next one. Bye.